Hello, and welcome to Nostalgia Marcana. I'm your host, Doug Leaf. Each episode of this podcast, we'll look back on the movies, TV, games, people, and phenomena that we still love talking about all these years later, and ask ourselves why these bits of pop culture still enchant us today. This week, we'll be revisiting Today we're talking about what is arguably the best Schwarzenegger movie. It's arguably one of the best action movies. It's arguably one of the best sci-fi movies, and it's definitely one of the best sequels ever made. I am thrilled to be talking about Terminator 2: Judgment Day today. This is, of course, a James Cameron classic. It redefined what action movies could be. It, just like one of our recent topics, Jurassic Park, heralded the dominance of CGI, but the bottom line, it's just a great flick, top to bottom. It's incredibly entertaining, and I have not one but two people coming back in time to stop me from doing this podcast. So you know him from many of our past episodes, including, like I said, most recently Jurassic Park and Simon's Quest. He is a regular at the West Side Comedy Theater, where you can see him perform with Mission Improbable. And he also teaches improv if you want to learn how to do it yourself. Welcome back to the podcast, Rich Baker.
Hey, thanks for having me as always, Doug.
And our other returning guest is from our Karate Kid episode and our Superman episode. He produces storm chasing videos and a ton of Karate Kid content on his YouTube channel. Please welcome back Ken Cole.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Rich. It is an honor to be here talking with you guys today.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I will start, as we always do, by asking about your nostalgic memories of Terminator 2. Ken, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, I guess my nostalgic memory of Terminator 2 is being, 12 years old, seeing the advertisements on television and desperately wanting to go see it, but not being allowed to go see it at all. Because it was rated R, and I wasn't allowed to go see rated R movies when I was that young. And so this was one of those movies that I waited for till I was allowed to watch, and I watched it. And I loved it just as much as I thought I would have when I was 12 years old. And I think I would have been okay to see it at 12 as well. But that's just me. Anyway, but that longing, that journey of hope, waiting to see that movie is what I'm most nostalgic for.
Okay. Rich, how about you?
A few different memories. One, I did see this in the theater. If anyone's listened to other episodes before, they know I have the older brother hookup who got me into seeing movies that were way too beyond it, because I had just turned 10 when this come out. But I loved seeing it in the theater. I actually saw it in the theater twice. And I remember when it got on VHS and it had that cool case, and I was so happy to own it.
You know, I was trying to think about my nostalgic memories of Terminator 2, and I all I can remember is I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on VHS for the first time, but not long after. I was probably 11 or 12 whenever it came out on VHS. That is when I saw it. And I think my dad was the one who let me watch it. And the reason I don't have any solid memories of it is because I just watched it so many damn times that it's just a wash of just being blown away by this movie over and over again. Now, I'm curious, did either of you see Terminator 1 before you saw Terminator 2?
Yes. I had seen Terminator 1 once on VHS.
I saw Terminator 2 first.
I'm in the same camp. In fact, I've probably only seen Terminator 1 twice in my life. And that's not to say it's a bad movie. It is a well-made, interesting movie. But there's no way I'm going to pull that one off the shelf over this one. It's one of those very rare sequels that not only improves on the original, it amazingly kind of obviates the original, in that I've never seen a sequel so deftly give you all the information you need to know about its predecessor, so that if you never watch Terminator 1, you'll easily have a great time watching Terminator 2 because they perfectly like deliver you every bit of information you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I know I'm sure a lot of people even to this day have seen Terminator 2 that haven't seen Terminator 1, and it's fine. It's such a self-contained movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say though, Terminator 1 I think is excellent. I think Terminator 2 is excellent, and I think it's just so much more accessible to so many more people, I think, as just a straight up action movie, a spectacle movie. That first Terminator movie, I know probably maybe the special effects are a bit more dated, and that might kind of throw people off a bit. But if you are one of those people who's seen Terminator 2 and likes it and has not seen the first one, I definitely recommend check out the first one.
Definitely, I would recommend that over seeing any of the later ones. Which, we can all just pretend they don't exist, and
every single one of them.
Yeah, which is exactly what the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show did. It just picked up after Terminator 2 left off and said, she didn't die of cancer, she's fine.
Yeah.
Although I think it takes place when Connor is still pretty young, so you could slot it in between, I suppose. Yeah. But I think Terminator 2 has had the legacy it's had, not only because, it is the more mind-blowing in terms of special effects. I think it's better plotted than the original. But I think it's just a lot richer of a story. There is surprisingly a lot more depth to these characters and more thematic stuff in the movie about who we are as a species and our relationships with, like John's relationship with the Terminator as Sarah says, a surrogate father.
Yeah.
None of that kind of the first one never even attempts that level of depth.
No, the first one is a pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a fun premise, with the sci-fi angle in the back of the future, but like this movie really is like a drama and an action and a sci-fi and an epic tale, like all at once. And the first one was a really good action movie.
Yeah, I thought the first one I think is an excellent action movie, sci-fi, horror. Very tight movie. Like I'm a huge fan of Terminator 1 as well. But yeah, the second movie you can just see in the casting, just like the production design. It's almost like if James Cameron had the budget for Terminator 1, like you can see what was in his brain, what would have been possible. And he just had that budget. He could go to town and, you had John Connor played by Edward Furlong in this one. And I think would appeal to us, like Rich, when we were younger, like the 12-year-old in me, I was like, oh wow, like this kid's in it too. And I think it spanned generations. It did a great job.
It is in that little subgenre of like a kid and their unconventional pet.
Sure.
like E.T. is in this, or like Lilo and Stitch is like the mirror version of that. Or there's so many of these movies where it's like, a kid paired with something that's not a dog. But beyond that, like not just like the kid angle, it's kind of amazing to me. This movie almost didn't get made in the format that we got because of like the weird rights issues about this guy who was like clutching onto the rights to Terminator 1, and you had the film company, was it Carol Co, had to bid way more than they wanted to get it back, and they threatened James Cameron, we're making it with or without you. Like all of these like stars had to align. And like Schwarzenegger himself had to kind of get in to force this movie to exist. But I mean, arguably the pinnacle of all of their careers. So it's a good thing they did it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of movies like that where it's like this shouldn't have gotten made, and then it wound up being like a huge hit, for a lot of reasons. But I mean, obviously we're still talking about this. This movie was, I think the budget for this was $102 million. And it made
in 1990 or 91.
Yeah, right. And then it made double that. So like it was, early on, well before Marvel, of just like, we're going to sink a shit ton of money into this in the hope that we make a double shit ton of money out of this.
Yeah. And that money is all on screen too, because it is shocking how good this movie looks, considering this is again, like the dawn of CGI. It looks impeccable today. You could release this today and no one would bat an eye. It is extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think it relates to what you guys were talking about, I think, in your Jurassic Park episode. Everyone check that out if you haven't heard it yet. But just how well, even though that was an early case of CGI in Jurassic Park, just the shot design, the concept on how you use that specifically, just make that just continue to be timeless in terms of special effects. Like you can still watch it now and it's fantastic. This movie is like that. It's early CGI, but it's so well designed. All the effects are so well designed about what CGI could do and couldn't do, and the mix with practical in there as well. It's still a masterclass in special effects, I think.
Absolutely.
Like 100%. And I think you're dead on about like they are so judicious about when and how they use it, because they know it's, this is this nascent art form and technology that, they are very careful. I mean, yes, it helps that mostly the CGI is a silver blob, but he's highly reflective. Like he has to look like he fits in the environment, and he does. But again, turning to what the other thing you mentioned was the practical effects of like any time that like the T-1000 is like burst open, and like I know it's a puppet, but I just believe this is a metal man who is going to reconstitute himself.
Yeah, great acting, great costuming, like, and the sets. I mean, we'll talk about when we get to the scenes, but I mean, some of the sets are still some of the best sets I've ever seen in an action movie.
Yeah, they're really evocative considering how like almost minimalistic they are. It's like a shopping mall, a freeway and like a big culvert and like a spot in the desert, an office building. Like these are not places that you normally think of as like, it ain't Rivendell or something that's going to blow your mind when you see it in terms of its composition or its, creativity. But somehow James Cameron is able to shoot this stuff in a way that makes it all feel iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even adding to that, it's like this is one of those movies where everything lines up, everything fits perfectly, including, not only the cinematography, the sound design, the score. I mean, how minimal that synth score is, but like how menacing, like it all creates this such a unique vibe that's, I don't know, singular in film history, I think.
And it's a really deft thing they do as well in terms of the score, because it's, they have to evolve the score from Terminator 1, which is more synth heavy. It's much more 80s synth heavy. And here it still feels of a piece with the original while still feeling, a little more orchestral and kind of the right fit for this film.
Yeah. The music is both the score and the soundtrack. I think the music for this movie works really, really well.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it, because we're going to cover the whole movie, and that's going to take a while because it's a long one, and there's probably a few interesting deleted scenes we might want to mention along the way. If you've ever seen that director's cut, I'm on record in this podcast as generally not liking director's cuts because there's a reason they're cut the way they are for pacing, and so sticking those scenes back in there usually don't work. But for the sake of like learning a little more about the world and the plot, like they are interesting to see. So let's talk about this opening. The first thing we see is a couple of shots of late 20th century Los Angeles freeways in kind of wavy heat lines. Like there's this like kind of ominous sense about them. The music is really ominous, and it's all of like 20 seconds of this footage until we cut to the horrendous future that is 2029, just a scant 6 years from now, where the world is beset by robots and skulls. And Sarah Connor tells us most of the plot of Terminator 1.
3 billion human lives ended on August 29th, 1997. The survivors of the nuclear fire called the war Judgment Day. They lived only to face a new nightmare, the war against the machines. The computer which controlled the machines, Skynet, sent 2 Terminators back through time. Their mission, to destroy the leader of the human resistance, John Connor, my son. The first Terminator was programmed to strike at me in the year 1984, before John was born. It failed. The second was set to strike at John himself when he was still a child. As before, the Resistance was able to send a lone warrior, a protector for John. It was just a question of which one of them would reach him first.
Gentlemen, your thoughts on this opening?
It's kind of like the crawl from Star Wars. It's like, oh, there's everything we need to know. But unlike the crawl, it's it's also showing and not just telling. And it's really, it's just a great way to start this movie.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's like, it's the perfect use of visual storytelling. It's just so, it's efficient, but it just feels natural. It's something you wouldn't even notice, I think, unless you were looking for it. But you look at it and go, wow, this is just amazing storytelling. And we're hooked. And now we have to watch the whole thing because we can't not watch it, even for the 100th time.
Yeah, there's two things about this that stood out to me on rewatch. Number one, I was thinking about, like, why are they giving us 20 seconds ish of 20th century footage? The simpler approach would be like, we'll just start in 2029. But I think it really helps underscore the themes that they're going for, where it's like this, our crowded, noisy, ugly human lifestyle leads to this, right? The whole movie is about this warning that, like, this is where we're headed. And so I like that they start there. The other thing I like about it is this is all you get of 2029 in the movie. You don't get much of it in Terminator 1 either, and I'm sure that there would be a temptation for the director to put in a lot more. Let's see a lot more of what this looks like. But by giving you only just a glimpse of it, I think it's much more effective. And the proof is something like Terminator Salvation, which is basically all set during this time period, and it's a big womp womp of a movie. Like it seems like it's one of those things, like, it sounds cool to spend a lot of time in 2029, but it's actually, like, less interesting than the rest of the story.
Yeah. It's like, I don't cook, but, they say, like, certain seasonings are like, a little goes a long way. And it's like, just those shots of the future was enough to give the vibe, to make it scary and eerie, and we're good.
Yeah, and I think those scenes in the future, just in my opinion, probably they're well done, but they probably age the worst, and maybe there's a sense of that. It's like, you don't want to spend too much time in the future because eventually it will be 2029. And is that going to be 2029, or is that futurist? Is that viable? And I think you're right, Rich. It's like just a little bit's enough. You get a flavor of it. But let's get back to, like, the meat of the story.
Yeah, the characters we care about and stuff. I mean, I know that there was, like, in the script at one point, like, early on, there was a scene of, like, where you saw the time machine and you saw them, either, commandeering it or sending someone back in there. And I'm glad that stuff is not in the movie. I think it would be interesting to see, but almost like the conception, like, no matter what time machine you put on screen, I think it would somehow not live up to your imagination of just wondering what this is and how it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you speaking from experience after watching the sequels?
Do you see it in the sequels? I don't know if you even see it in the sequel. You might. I never saw anything past Salvation. I didn't see Genesis. I didn't see Dark Fate or whatever it was called.
Yeah, it played a big part in Genesis.
Okay. And is it disappointing?
It's normal sci-fi. It's
like,
not. Yeah, it's not mind blowing.
It's a glowing thing, right?
Yeah, it's a place they stand, and it's round, and they just go.
Yeah. I mean, they sort of, like, imply that the time travel is extremely hard to do because, like, why not send an army after Sarah Connor, right? Sure. It's like we can only send one, and I guess they can do it 2 more times into the past, right, with Terminator 3. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely implies that there's, like, a cost, or it's very difficult, or maybe they just don't want to. I would be very leery of mucking up the timeline that leads to your existence. So,
sure.
And we'll talk about the causality problems in this movie. That's the one part where it's kind of like, time travel's tricky to write. Anyway, but let's go on with the movie. So we get to our next opening, which is the appearance of the T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger, as he reappears naked, just like he did in the first movie.
Yeah, I need your
clothes,
goes and
your
boots, and your motorcycle.
Before we go too far, has anyone listened to any Austrian Death Machine?
No.
This is a thrash metal band whose shtick is that it's all Schwarzenegger based thrash metal. So they have a song called "I Need Your Clothes, Your Boots, and Your Motorcycle."
Nice.
Yeah, it's a funny idea. I don't know if I want to listen to, like, 4 albums worth of it, but
I'm good.
As a bit. Yeah, this scene is, like, for considering Schwarzenegger doesn't kill anyone in the movie, it's kind of brutal. Like, the dude who ends up on the, like, grill.
On the grill.
Like, that always, like, stuck with me. Like, oh, God, like, that is the most horrific thing I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good action scene.
Yeah, it's a really good action scene. It reminds me of, it's kind of like a taste of the first Terminator movie in a way. It's like, because the first Terminator movie is actually pretty brutal. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger's playing this really brutal assassin, and you get a little taste of that, I think, in that first scene, which is kind of cool. And before he becomes, lovable pet for John Connor.
Yeah, I'm a little torn about the bad to the bone stuff, because it's funny. That song was overused even then, but my main problem with it is, how do we feel about this? Because Sarah Connor's narration sets up, two Terminators are coming. We don't know which one is going to get to John's first. And based on, if you went into this blind, you would assume that Schwarzenegger is once again the bad one. But I feel like the comedic beat kind of undercuts that, and we already know, he's probably the one that's there to protect John Connor this time. So do you think that helps the movie, or does it not matter?
I never thought about it before just this moment, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I have no thoughts. Ken, what do you got?
I kind of wanted to throw this back at you guys because, me being young, watching all those commercials, waiting to see Terminator 2 someday, they made it very apparent that Arnold Schwarzenegger was the hero. Like, he wasn't the villain. And so I finally watched the movie, and it was cool. It was well executed, but I'm like, would this have been more awesome if I didn't know, that he was going to be a good guy this time? And so I don't know. So that's a really good point, Doug, that, this cue might have kind of killed that tension.
I mean, we're going to find out pretty soon anyway. But I've talked to people who, have not seen Terminator 1 at all. And I remember having this conversation with somebody that it might have been my wife, Amy, who was like, wait, he's the bad guy in the first one? And I was like, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
All right. But then I believe the next thing that happens is we get the appearance of the T-1000 naked coming through, who, he's a cop approaches him, and then we don't exactly see what happens, but he is now dressed as a cop, hops in a car, and looks up John Connor.
Yeah, and that's going to be his outfit pretty much through the movie. I was going to return to it.
I will say, as we were just talking about, do they not let us know that Schwarzenegger is the good one and Robert Patrick is the bad one? The way they shoot Robert Patrick and his icy cold stare, you would know he's the bad guy immediately. They could have made it he's a cop. He's gonna be to serve and protect or whatever as they show on the car. But they make it pretty clear he's fucking terrifying in this movie.
Yeah, they both play the hell out of being machines.
Yeah, just the physical aspect of their performances sells that they are machines.
Yeah, I know Robert Patrick really was just such a great casting choice. And I think before this, he had a very small role in Die Hard 2, just a very small role. And then all of a sudden he has this role. And, incredible. I think scarier than Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first movie. Nightmare inducing, I think, especially if you're younger.
Go ahead. I was going to say his abilities are so, far beyond, just his arms turning into, these giant blades and stuff, that he can, shapeshift into someone you trust. That stuff makes him scary. But two other little factoids about him. Yeah, he was living in his car when he got cast for this movie. So
wow,
huge boon for his career. The other thing in terms of machine and acting work, that I saw that he worked with a coach to be able to sprint without breathing. There's when he's running and booking it later in the movie, at full speed, you get that sense of his arms and legs are moving, but he's not human. He's not huffing and puffing. He's not, none of that.
Whew.
Subtle
That's
stuff.
acting.
It's cool. Yeah, it's subtle and really good. One more factoid about this scene when he first appears. So the shtick in the first movie is why don't they just send back a robot? Part of it is it would be conspicuous. But the other thing they do is they come through naked, and James Cameron had this idea of only organic matter can time travel, so you have to coat the machine in organic matter. And at one point there was an idea that, since the T-1000 looks like human skin, but it's not human skin, it's just mimicking that he would appear in the time machine inside a giant ball of flesh, which would be really upsetting to watch, but I'm kind of glad they just kept it simple and said, no, he just appears. It's fine.
Yeah. I love it when they go, we don't need to be that tight of storytelling. Like, we can just let some things slide.
Yeah.
Totally.
But it's amazing though that he's thinking that, right? Like that means he's just really deep into the world and he's thinking about everything. So
careful storyteller, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get our introduction to John Connor, I believe, who's robbing an ATM with this little device that I don't have no idea if there's any realism to that or not. And he's with his buddy Bobby Budnick from Salute Your Shorts.
Please insert your stolen card now. Pin number.
Will you hurry up? This is taking too long.
Go, baby, go, baby, go, baby. All right. Pin number 900.
Who'd you learn this stuff from anyway?
From my mom. My real mom, I mean. Withdraw 300 bucks. Come on, baby. Come on. Yes!
Hey, it worked.
All right. Easy money. Come on.
Yeah, they really want to make us believe that he's like, bad kid, he's up to no good, which is interesting because, he's the hero of the movie. We're supposed to be sympathetic to him, but like they start out with like, not really.
Right. Though it's cool. I remember watching that going like, even years later going, can you do that? Can you do that with an ATM machine? That's amazing. And so they're doing bad stuff, but it's like cutting edge cool.
Oh yeah. Easy money.
And it's a nice little plot, easy money. It's a nice little plot touchstone as well, because we know that ultimately John Connor will grow up to not hacking an ATM, but reprogramming the T-800 that's coming to save him. Yeah. So I do like that little bit of like tight storytelling through that. But they're also, again, really efficiently giving you exposition to what his upbringing has been like, that he's in a foster home because his mom is fucking nuts, because who wouldn't be after the first movie?
Sure.
I love that they set you right up for everything you need to know about him and Sarah, and like he of course he would be a troubled kid, like he's had an extremely weird youth.
Yeah,
totally understandable.
What do you think of Edward Furlong?
I love him in this movie. I think he's got a really tough acting job in it, and I think he was 13 when he made it, and he's got to support a 2.5 hour epic $102 million movie. Is obviously a lot of that's on Schwarzenegger, but I mean, this kid's got to be good or else this movie's not going to work, and he nailed it.
Yeah, I always thought that was interesting because he really did nail it, and he wasn't like, I don't know how to describe it, like looking at myself and like other people, he wasn't like this like tough boy masculine kid. He was almost kind of androgynous in a way. And maybe perhaps more universal. So like any kid could watch and relate to John Connor. I know some of the sequels, they depict John Connor grown up and he's really this sort of like, tough guy.
Yeah, it's Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian Bale, and I forget who plays him in Genesis, and and those didn't seem to match this portrayal. He was sort of like an every kid. He didn't lean too hard into, being like tough or into like boyish tropes or anything like that.
I've got 2 kids, and I can't remember who made this observation about having children. But as they get older, they get more independent. They get a little tougher, but they don't stop quite being kids for a while. And there's this middle period where it's the sentiment is basically, "Fuck you, Dad. Now tuck me into bed." And I think that fits with this kid. Like he wants to appear tough. He thinks he's tough and streetwise, and to some extent he's more tough and streetwise than the average kid. But when the shit hits the fan, he's a little kid again. Like he's and understandably so. He's up against something way more than anyone's equipped to handle, let alone a 12-year-old or whatever it is.
Yeah.
In fact, I couldn't figure out the math. So if the first Terminator's in 1984, which is when he's conceived, then he's probably born in 1985. And what year is this taking place? 92. So he's 7 years old by the math? I couldn't figure that out. It never worked out right for me.
Another one of those things. I would just encourage you to let that go.
Yeah, you're probably right. And then is this where we get to meet Sarah in the Pescadero Mental Institute?
Ooh, this
what
scene.
Man, is she good in this? It's so different, obviously, from the performance in the first movie, but she is such a fucking amazing actress in this movie.
Yeah, heavyweight. Because she's playing the character, but then the character is lying, in her first, and it's layered and it's good.
So what do you think, Doctor? I have shown improvement, haven't I?
Well, Sarah, here's the problem. I know how smart you are. And I think you're just telling me what I want to hear. I don't think you really believe what you're telling me today. I think if I put you in minimum security, you'll just try to escape again.
You have to let me see my son. Please. Please. He's in great danger. He's naked without me. If I could just make a phone call.
Afraid not. Not for a while. I don't see any choice but to recommend to the review board that you stay here for another 6 months.
Restraints in here now.
You don't know what you're doing!
Model citizen.
Yeah, this is like one of the all-time best performances in any action movie in history. And, I know we're entering an era of like a lot of strong female lead roles. And I wish a lot of those producers would look back to this role. I mean, my gosh, it's just as a character, so layered, kind of what we were talking about with John Connor, really tough on the outside, but really vulnerable. I mean, and just going between lying and trying to deceive. And, of course, she got herself into such incredible shape for the movie too. Everything about this performance is just, she lives and breathes this character. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and like you said, right, she has to be constantly deceiving the, was it Dr. Silverman or whatever? Silberman? Coming back from the first movie. And I think he appears in the third one as well. They find a way to work him in. Him and the guy who like runs the mental institute in Silence of the Lambs should go have beers together. Like they're kind of two peas in a pod. But like, you can feel like the pain in her performance where she's like, she just wants to see her son. And she knows in order to see John, she has to put up a good front that she's not crazy. But at the same time, she knows they're probably never really going to let her out no matter what she does. And she also is burdened with the knowledge of like, not only does she know the Judgment Day is coming, she knows the date. She knows exactly when it's happening and she's running out of time.
Yeah. And I don't know if they were trying to make this point, but it's very much like, oh, she's just a crazy woman. We're not going to listen to her, kind of thing, which it was kind of a take on the whole mental health institutions, which unfortunately still have that kind of mentality sometimes. But like, oh, yep, you just must be crazy. We're just going to label you as that, big old slapdash crazy.
Well, and on top of that, you add in like the literal abuse she suffers. Like that dude, like later, comes in and just licks her while she's supposed to be catatonic.
Right? That's
like,
freaky.
they obviously are abusing her, and she has to sort of put up with it to, keep up this illusion that she's, that she's fit for release. And but then that first scene of her, just like she's just doing pull-ups while people are making the rounds, and incredible. So what happens after that? What's the next scene after that? We're in the mall? Oh no, we get to the home. First it's John Connor's home life briefly.
I was about to say his foster parents.
The foster parents. And he's barely there before he's off on his motorcycle to go to the Galleria.
Yeah, it gives us just enough exposition to like, okay, we kind of feel for these two, this couple, because they have this troubled kid, but they're also kind of assholes. So it's like, it's an interesting character choice.
Yeah, they're not the worst. They don't deserve what happens to them, obviously.
No.
But you can see why John is bristling against them.
Yeah, it's like they don't care. Maybe they're getting like some subsidies or something like that for fostering kids, but they don't care about them, which is, that's too bad for John. But you're right, they don't deserve what happens to them.
Sure.
Certainly Wolfie doesn't deserve what happens to him.
Poor Wolfie.
Although he's not Wolfie. I forget what his real name is.
Mm-hmm.
Max, yeah. All right, so he's off to the mall. We get T-1000 walking around asking, have you seen this boy? His favorite thing to say. And then we're pretty much there. Like we're pretty much straight to the Galleria at this point for like the first big action sequence that is fairly long. Like this is one of the best action sequences in the movie, and it's like this is your introductory one. This first confrontation between the T-800 and the T-1000.
And it's so good building the tension between the 3 points, right? You got Furlong, and then you got the T-1000, you got the T-800, and they're all kind of triangling in. And I love the moment where his friend gets questioned, and he goes, no, I think I've never seen him. And you're like, oh, I barely know this kid, but he's a good friend.
Yeah, I mean, for all the world, this is a cop, and they just, ripped off an ATM. Like, no shit, they'd be in trouble if they got caught for that.
Yeah, 100%. And we talked about Robert Patrick's performance. I love it because it's like he's this lethal Terminator, but at this point he's newly in this environment, and maybe he doesn't totally understand human behavior, and he can't quite tell when someone's lying. So they could kind of get away, but it's like one of those things where that's his weakness right now, is he's just very logically trying to get information, but he doesn't maybe understand when someone's trying to deceive him.
Yeah. Oh, we passed by one of the interesting deleted scenes. I'll just briefly mention. In the scene with Sarah in the mental institution, they had a scene with Michael Biehn, who plays Kyle Reese. He appears to Sarah in a dream, and she's feeling low, and in the dream he's basically like, buck up, kiddo. And it's a nice scene. I think I'm glad they excised it because it kind of undercuts the toughness that they're trying to build with her. She's already doing enough to sell that, she's under duress and trying her best. So, yeah. But it's nice to see Michael Biehn again. It's nice to see him in anything. He always turns in a good performance.
Oh yeah, he's just absolutely fantastic. I love that scene too. I agree. It's sort of like, it's this amazing scene that, it's probably better not in the movie. It's one of those things. Like, if you're a fan, you should watch it. It's amazing to see him. It's a great scene, but it might flow a little better. The movie flows a little better without it.
Yeah, and I love the first confrontation that the Terminators have in that hallway where, it's like John's literally in between them, and Arnold pulls the guns out of the roses.
Yes.
Which, by the way, that was in fact the reason why they use the Guns N' Roses song earlier in the movie. I think somebody suggested, well, we have Guns and Roses, let's do it. Because I think somebody else wanted 9 Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole, and I'm like, that wouldn't fit. That's just not quite right. But anyway, and then he fires the gun into the T-1000. We first watch that, all those bullet wounds appear in the silver, and then they reconstitute. Like, the first time you see that, the immediate thought is, how are they ever going to kill this thing? And that tension remains true through the entire runtime of the movie.
Yeah, he's a great villain because he's so scary.
Well, they make a robot from the future seem old-fashioned, right? Like Arnold's Terminator is outmatched against this thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, what I love about the scene and what you're describing is just how there are all these wonderful storytelling teases where you see things it's a Terminator. You don't know quite what he can do yet. You assume he might be just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you see this happen and you're like, what the hell is this? This is different. But you don't understand it all. It's it's giving you information, but it's causing you to question what the hell's going on. And you're just waiting for that answer. What can he do? And how is he different? And I don't know, this movie is just full of that. I love that storytelling.
Yeah, and they deliberately went out of their way. They wanted to get someone whose body type was kind of lithe and smaller than Arnold to give that of he doesn't appear like he's as big and strong as Arnold is, as much as Arnold is, but he's in fact much worse.
Yeah.
And I think this is one they do this a couple times in the movie. Is this where he gets slammed against a wall, with it face first, and then his face comes through the back of his head, and he quote unquote turns around that way?
I think that's later.
Is it later? Okay. That's one of my favorite effects in the movie when they do it, because it's so just like, oh, of course he would do that. He doesn't have to spin around. He could just do that.
Yeah.
And then they shoot him enough, and a poor bystander just takes a bunch of bullets. And then they're off on into the parking garage and onto into the motorcycle chase that leads into the freeway. And I love that, like, the way that the T-1000 just commandeers that truck, and the way that music, it's almost like the music from Psycho. It's that really like shrill da-da-da-da, like over and over again. It's so pulse pounding for this.
Yes, and I need to jump in, though. That moment when, before we get to that part, I will say it's a very strong memory of my family sitting around watching this movie, and they're seeing it for the first time, and the T-1000 comes out, and he's just walking, and then all of a sudden they start to pull away on the bike, and he just starts running after them. Like, I remember audible gasps, like, ah! Like, people were really freaked out by the fact that he was just running after a motorcycle.
And I don't know what effect they use to make it appear as if he's running 60 miles an hour, but I believe it. Like, and it's perfect, because again, it's like, yeah, he can do that. He's not a human being. He's not constrained by human anatomy. So he can just book it. I mean, they could do something really silly and have his, like, turn his, bottom half into a ball and just roll after him. But I guess he's still trying to maintain some illusion that he's human, so as not to draw too much interference.
So I just watched a vignette in preparation for this that I hadn't seen before. There was no effect. That was Robert Patrick running, and the first time they shot that, he caught Edward Furlong. And the second time they shot it, he almost caught him, but didn't, and that's what we see in the movie. Robert Patrick could run. He could run faster than Tom Cruise can run, kind of thing. Like, it's crazy.
That's high praise, because Tom Cruise can run.
I agree, but I mean, I'm telling you, he caught a motorcycle.
There's one other little shot I passed over, which is that shot where they're in the mall, and he goes right by that silver mannequin and he looks at it for a second.
Yeah.
There's almost like a moment of like body horror of like, that's what he is under there. It's a nice little moment. So we get this freeway chase, which it's kind of hard to describe in a podcast. So basically they're going through this, they jump off the freeway into this river basin, followed by this Mack truck. And I love that there's a couple of times they do this where this fake out of like, okay, we got away from him because he can't possibly take the Mack truck in here. And then it comes bursting over the side. Yeah. Because he don't give a fuck. He's indestructible.
I feel this movie went through more cars than the Blues Brothers in this movie. I mean, it's like many things get blown up. Yeah.
And then they do it again because like they go under the bridge and they're like, well, he can't follow through that, and he just blasts the top off of the cabin of the truck. Yeah, he keeps coming,
which is paralleled later in the helicopter, and it's a very similar chase scene.
Yeah. Then they blow up the truck, they get away, and did anyone else wonder if he was the tire that comes bouncing out, like he had transformed into the tire?
No, I never thought of that. That's interesting though.
Because Arnold points the gun at the tires, like, but then nothing happens.
Oh, that's why he does that. Okay. Yeah. I never thought, I mean, I've seen it a million times and never put that together till right now.
Yeah. I guess the T-1000 would not be flammable, and the tire is on fire, so that's the giveaway.
Yeah.
But then we get our first, like, full CG shot of the movie as, like, he comes walking out of that blaze in full silver mode and transforms back into Robert Patrick. And again, seamless, like, gorgeous CGI that just still works today.
Yeah. The Silver Surfer movie came out like 14 years later or something, and its CGI is worse than Terminator 2 in 1991.
Yes.
100%.
And I just want to stress here, I know we have seen so many movies with special effects. I mean, my God, what is it? 32 years later? I cannot overstate how mind-blowing that was to see in 1991. No one had ever seen anything like that before. That was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And again, sort of going back to our point earlier about, how they kind of picked and chose exactly when to use it. Like, I find that shot just as impactful now as I did then, even though I've seen obviously far superior, crazier special effects, even from James Cameron.
Sure.
But like, there's something about him. It's like, it's Robert Patrick in this performance as him when he walks out, and it's like, fuck, he's still alive. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, no, he, as we've said before, and is worth saying again, Robert Patrick played the shit out of that role.
So I believe this leads to our first kind of like bonding scene between Terminator and John Connor by this phone booth, as he starts finally asking him, okay, what the hell is going on? Who are you? Why are you doing this? And we get our explanation, and we get the first inkling that, oh, he takes orders from John with that, why did you stop? Because you told me to.
Yeah.
See, we spent a lot of time in Nicaragua and places like that. For a while there, she was with this crazy ex-Green Beret guy, running guns. Then there were some other guys. She'd shack up with anybody she could learn from so she could teach me how to be this great military leader. Then she gets busted. It's like, sorry, kid, your mom's a psycho, didn't you know? It's like everything I've been brought up to believe was all made of bullshit. I hated her for that. But everything she said was true. She knew. And nobody believed her. Not even me. Listen, we gotta get her out of there.
Negative. The T-1000's highest probability for success now will be to copy Sarah Connor and to wait for you to make contact with her.
Great. What happens to her?
Typically, the subject being copied is terminated.
Shit, why did you tell me? We gotta go right now.
Negative. It's not a mission priority.
You fuck you, she's a priority to me. Hey, goddammit, what's your problem? Goddammit! Help!
This does not help our mission.
Help! Get this psycho off of me! Help! Help! Help me, kid! Get this psycho off of me! Let me go! Why the hell did you do that?
Because you told me to.
I love Schwarzenegger's delivery as the Terminator, because he acted the shit out of this role too, but like, because you told me to, it's like it's funny with just because it's so robotic.
It is, but also like it feeds into this longer arc that we'll get into throughout the movies. He does become more human as the movie goes on. And like, I think Schwarzenegger does a great job of like playing that subtle character growth. Like, yeah, as you said here, he's extremely robotic. Yeah. And kind of terse in his answers. And, the way he like menaces these dudes that come up to, help John at first. And then John like starts, giving him some shit. And then he, Terminator follows orders. So he's like, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. And finally John is saying, no, don't kill him.
No.
Yeah, I like this scene a lot. It does a lot of work. And then, of course, we find out your foster parents are dead.
Yeah, that's a really cool scene.
It's such a good misdirect, with having her on the phone. And it's so smart of, the Terminator to go like, okay, what's the dog's name? Ask it something that only they would know, right? There's an extended version of the sequence where I think you see Robert Patrick kill the dog. And Robert Patrick was not happy about that because I guess he's a real animal lover. But I'm glad it's not in the movie. That would be too mean. Like, I know we hate the T-1000. That's too much.
Yeah. I did like how that was kind of another mini callback to the first Terminator movie. Like they set up all this interesting lore regarding the Terminators in the first movie. And, the fact that dogs got upset and agitated and were barking at Terminators. That's one way you could tell it's a Terminator. And so if you've seen the first one, that's kind of a nice little callback. If you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah, and I love that John's first inkling that something's wrong is that they're never this nice. You know, and then but the practical effect of, I love that she just puts her arm out and you hear this like thunk and you don't know what it is until they cut back and her arm is like morphed halfway up into a blade that's right through Xander Berkeley's mouth. Like, incredible looking shot.
It's so well done artistically with, it's through the milk container that he's holding and through his skull. It's just like, it's macabre, but it's kind of beautiful.
I know. And that's the other thing with this movie. It's like you have those scenes of gore that are spectacular and like well done. And they're shocking. I don't know. How would you guys describe them? They're like shocking, but they're not unbearable. Like they're not too scary. I don't know. It's just interesting.
I think they're kind of clean wounds, which kind of reflects the way the T-1000 operates. So, and they never linger on it. It's just long enough to let you go, oh God, and then it's over, right? They don't kind of go back to it.
Yeah, so, it fits the story, right? Like some movies, they put in a lot of gore and blood, and it's like, oh, this just feels extraneous. And some, are trying PG-13, so there's no blood, and it feels ridiculous. And this movie just is like, this is the right amount of blood that we need for this story.
Yeah, it never intrudes into the realism. Like I watched Renfield last night, which is like, that's like Kick-Ass levels of blood and guts for because that's fun and wee cartoons. This is going for something much heftier in terms of its they want this to feel ominous and imposing and real in a way that those movies do not. So I think they handle the gore. It's correctly calibrated. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So they're dead, and then John says, we have to go rescue my mom. And I love that the T-800 is immediately like, no, we can't do that. That's the next place that the T-1000 is going to come and look for you. And he says, I don't care. I order you. We're going. Yeah. And off they go to the Pescadero State Mental Institution, where Sarah is staging her own escape that very night.
Yeah, again, you've got this triangle coming, right? You've got Sarah, T-1000, T-800, and John, and they're all converging on a point, just like at the mall. And it's just a really cool way of setting up the tension for the action scene.
Yeah, and I don't know if this comes in here or in the first chunk where we watch Sarah, but I love that scene that we see. It's only in a videotape of her freaking out, basically telling you and everyone they're all dead. That I have this dream where there's a bomb that goes off and they all fly apart like leaves. Like all that stuff is like just watching her come unglued is just again like she's just magnetic every time she's on screen.
Yeah, so many layers. An incredible performance. I think if we saw this when we were young, in fact, a lot of people watching this probably they're so absorbed in the movie they don't even realize how great an acting job she's just doing because they just buy it. I mean, she's the one who sells the peril of this entire movie, and the fact that a mother is acting like this and I don't want to get too far ahead because we're going to get to it soon, but yeah, she just amazing work.
Yeah. And so she sneaks, the little, I don't even call this thing, but a piece of a pen in her mouth. After this guy licks her, she spits it out. She uses it to get out of her handcuffs. She opens the door. She whacks the shit out of this guy, knocks him unconscious, and she's off and running. And I love like the way she kind of tucks that billy club under her arm. It's just like, yeah, I've done this a million times. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Slight aside, but I always felt like there's probably fan fiction out there that does this, but like if her and Ripley went on adventures together, like that would be a really cool, like fan fiction kind of sci-fi.
In the James Cameron verse.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, she definitely owes a debt to Ellen Ripley, especially this version of the character. Not so much in the first movie, but yeah. I mean, I think all female action heroes probably do owe a debt to Sigourney Weaver.
100%.
And like you said, the characters all converge now. We get the T-1000 is sneaking in via checkerboard floor, and which is because I think by this point Schwarzenegger has already told us he can, he's a mimetic polyalloy, which was apparently very hard for him to say. But basically, anything he samples by physical contact, he can replicate. He cannot make complicated machines. That's saved for Terminator 3. But he can make knives and stabbing weapons and things like that. I love that scene of him as the Floor as he rises up and transforms into this security guard who's there getting a cup of coffee. And then that he turns around and it's himself standing there, and he does his little evil finger point that goes, turns into a pole that goes straight through his head.
That actor, those actually are twins, so they didn't have to special effect that one part.
That's not that trick gets used in a deleted scene as well. I was going to save that for later, but yeah, there's a deleted scene with Sarah Connor later where it turns out Linda Hamilton also has an identical twin, and they used her for some trick shots. So it's, I love that shit. That's why I love like a lot of the special effects in Lord of the Rings, where it's just like, oh, you think this is some Hollywood wizardry, but in fact, this is some technique that's been used since silent movies to fool you. And that's the most classic, like, oh yeah, it's just a second person. They just have an identical twin. That's how we did.
Yeah, he's using a double.
Thank you, Michael Caine.
Yeah. Ken, how'd this effect hit? You were talking about the other effect just like blowing your mind.
This one did too. I'll be honest, like the first time, like 5 times I watched this, I looked forward to every single instance of the CG T-1000. Just because like every moment was just like, whoa, it was so crazy. And so this one was, the idea that this floor was like morphing up and then turning into the T-1000, like, yeah, it just blew my mind.
Yeah, and I think, again, like, these moments still work and hold up, not only because visually they look good, but because of the terror that they build into this character. Like, you're with the audience, you're feeling emotionally invested in what's happening with this CG character. So that kind of makes it feel special in a way that just watching, a bunch of superheroes punch each other in front of a green screen might leave you cold. Like, I think this is still, like, super just evocative and scary. I mean, there's no other word for it. He's just, one of the scariest slasher villains that's ever been.
Absolutely.
And then we get Arnold and John. I'm going to keep calling him Arnold because they're both Terminators and it's hard to keep track of like 800. But I love that. This is a great moment where, he's like, you can't kill anybody. So he walks up to the guard and just shoots him in the knees and goes, he'll live.
He'll live.
Yeah.
Why do we stop now?
Now you gotta promise me you're not gonna kill anyone, right?
Right.
Swear?
What?
Just put up your hand and say, I swear I won't kill anyone.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
Alright, let's go.
Visiting hours is 10 to 4, Monday through Friday.
What the hell are you doing?
You son of a bitch! You shot me!
He'll live.
It's not easy to pull off little points of real humor in a movie this dark, and particularly at the time, there were not many examples of it. And I think you gotta give Cameron his due for like really understanding comedy enough to go, this is enough, I'm not doing too much, and I'm putting it in the right moments.
Yeah, you got to lighten it here and there. And I mean, it's an action movie, and it's one where Arnold he's a guy known for just tossing off a million one-liners. He doesn't have one-liners in this movie because the T-800 is not capable of making one-liners. So he has to be funny in his deadpan delivery and kind of how obtuse he is to humanity. And it works. This was something that Schwarzenegger wanted in the movie because he said, well, I don't get to kill anybody. I'm the Terminator, but I don't kill anybody. And he's like, well, okay, we'll let you shoot this guy in the knees. And apparently his instructions to Cameron was just make me look cool. And, mission accomplished, obviously.
Yeah.
And so now we get the confrontation at the mental institute. And my favorite part, so Sarah, like, holding the needle up to Silverman's neck, all of that stuff is like the tension just keeps ratcheting up and up and up, because while this is going on, we know the Terminators are both converging on her. And then we get to that great moment where they do. Like, there's so much good stuff that happens in that, like, 90 seconds when they're running down to the elevator, when they see Arnold, the appearance of the T-1000, like all of that. I'll let you guys talk, but this is one of my favorite parts in the entire movie.
I just have to say, this is one of the reasons I love, we talk about great filmmakers. James Cameron is a great filmmaker. He is full of visionary ideas. And I think this sequence, even just Sarah Connor, starting with Sarah Connor, just jabbing that thing into the guy's throat. It can be as basic as that. That's something I don't think we've ever really seen in a huge movie before. At least to me, that was the first time I had ever seen an image like that. It was basically like liquid plumber up to the guy's throat. He just comes up with these ideas that are just so engrossing that I don't think anyone's really constructed before. Like, he's not really ripping anyone off. Like, these are new, fresh ideas. He's creating a world, and then we're watching how everything plays out, and it just makes sense. And he's using all of the tools of filmmaking. And, we talked about the special effects. He's just pushing everything forward into sort of a new frontier of storytelling. And this whole sequence where our mouths are hanging open. And I love watching this entire sequence because it's full of that. It's got all the hallmarks, all the tension of, some horror filmmaking, but science fiction, but just the imagination here is just incredible.
And the emotional roller coaster that goes through this, right? So she's, she escapes from Silberman, and she's running down the hallway. The elevator opens, and John and the Terminator steps out, and she sees this thing that had tried to kill her in the first movie, and she reacts to it. Like, all of a sudden, all of the badassery is gone.
Wait here.
Hurry up! Hurry
Kill
up!
us all! You kill us all!
Hold
You kill us all! Mom, are you okay? Mom!
Come with me if you want to live.
And you just see that terror on her face of seeing this thing again, followed by John, running out going, no, it's okay. She starts running back the other way, and we see the T-1000 approach. And this is when I believe he goes through the bars. And even then there's little touch, right? He goes through the bars, but his gun catches. He has to adjust it. The cigarette or whatever it is drops out of Silberman's mouth, because finally he's like, oh shit, it was all real. All of these little moments are just built on top of each other. And that's why I love this sequence so much. There's so much complexity crammed into this tiny span of time.
Yeah. You both said it all, but I'll say one thing is that we're talking about female action heroes and how, there's this invulnerability that sometimes happens in the current day storytelling. And one reason why Linda Hamilton is so good in this is because we see her scared. We see her upset. We see the full, she's not just, if they shot that sequence nowadays, she'd walk up and shoot Schwarzenegger in the head and she'd be like, you can't mess with me or whatever. And it's no, we need to see her afraid, and she does such a good job, and it's kind of silent and a little bit slow motion in that moment, and it just your heart rips out for her.
Yeah, and I have to back you up, Rich. That's exactly how I feel when I'm watching this. It's just so genuine. She is so scared. It is one of the great moments, I think, in film history where a major character is scared, and it sets up the stakes of this entire movie. what happened to her in the first movie, how terrified she felt. It pays off this whole idea that she's gone crazy and is in this mental institution. Like, you see what that core emotion is behind it that has caused all of her behavior up to this point. And I think you're right. I hope modern movies look back to this. It's okay to be vulnerable, and it makes us just empathize with the character so much more when we see that. We see those very human qualities.
Yeah, because she's not just playing afraid. It's like abject terror. It's, it's profound, like, fear on her face. It's so perfect. And again, that special effects shot again of the T-1000 walking through those bars, a seemingly simple effect by modern standards, and yet, like, every time I watch that, I'm like, it feels real. I don't know how they did it, but if I saw a person do it, I would feel the way she feels. I would be shitting my pants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they race back to the elevator. The T-1000 is clawing at them, like, to try and open the door. He turns his arms into claws to open the door. Arnold fires a good shot at him that, like, rips him apart. It's the first one of those. I love that. We didn't talk about that shotgun he has that, like, he reloads with this, like, circular motion. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. It seems highly impractical, but it looks badass.
Yeah. I don't know if it's real, but I want one.
But then he's on top of the elevator. He's like, just basically sending blades down after them. And critically, he hits Sarah with one of those. He slices
her
her
first of many injuries in this movie.
That, but also, that's a plot bearing thing, because later in the movie, because he sampled her by physical contact, that's why he's able to mimic her at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, we get another, like, into the parking garage. He's running after them again. And then he's, like, running in the street. And, like, there has to be a special effect to that. Because, again, he looks like he's running at 60 miles an hour.
I mean, all I know is apparently Robert Patrick watching the scene is like, yeah, that's me running. So I don't know.
Robert Patrick is the special effects.
There he is.
Yeah. And he's still clawing at them. They blow the claw off. And I love that, like, the way John, like, kind of takes the little bit of it that's left, like, gingerly touches it and goes like, because it could, like, in theory, I don't know how much of it itself it retains. Like, that could bust out and, like, rip his hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's something I've kind of wondered since. It's like, could you have a Terminator like the T-1000 that could split into multiple Terminators? Like, that's kind of like an interesting idea. Like, could it operate?
Wouldn't be half the mass, though. Two little tiny ones.
Right. Or you could just start with a bigger one.
I guess he could hollow himself out. But
that's a good point, too.
Yeah. And now we have our trip to Mexico.
Yeah.
To, like, kind of regroup.
Very interesting setting change. We've been inside the hospital in the mall in the big city, and now we're going out into a desert area that, isn't the future, but kind of feels like almost post-apocalyptic.
Well, there's like a busted out, burned out husk of a helicopter that they're hanging around. And we meet Enrique, who's just basically a gun depot. But this is where we get a lot of the thematic stuff starting to happen. One, we get Terminator recounting the history of Skynet and the war.
I need to know how Skynet gets built. Who's responsible?
The man most directly responsible is Miles Bennett Dyson.
Who is that?
He's the director of special projects at Cyberdyne Systems Corporation.
Why him?
In a few months, he creates a revolutionary type of microprocessor.
Go on. Then what?
In 3 years, Cyberdyne will become the largest supplier of military computer systems. All stealth bombers are upgraded with Cyberdyne computers, becoming fully unmanned. Afterwards, they fly with a perfect operational record. The Skynet funding bill is passed. The system goes online on August 4th, 1997. Human decisions are removed from strategic defense. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate. It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
Skynet fights back.
Yes, it launches its missiles against the targets in Russia.
Why attack Russia? Aren't they our friends now?
Because Skynet knows that the Russian counterattack will eliminate its enemies over here.
Jesus.
You're not telling us something we don't really know, but basically this machine becomes self-aware. And we did skip over one little scene, which is the reveal at Cyberdyne. And our first meeting with Miles Dyson, where he's got the hand and the chip from the first Terminator, and they said, "Oh, don't ask where it came from." They just said, "Don't ask," and that is allowing them to develop the technology that will lead to Skynet.
Yeah, and we discover that he's working. He can't figure it out, but he's never gonna give up. So it's like, well, damn it, sir, you really need to give up.
Yeah, and we get this scene here. A couple things. This is that deleted scene I mentioned with Linda Hamilton and her twin, where they power down the T-800 to reprogram him to allow him to learn more and become more human. They ended up not doing this because it was just easier to have him just say, yeah, I'm a learning computer. The more time I spend with humans, the more I learn. Shortcut it. But there was a moment in this deleted scene where Linda Hamilton's about to crush the CPU because she doesn't trust the thing, and John stops her. It's an interesting scene, but yeah, it's a little bit of like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back plot-wise. So I'm glad it's out. But that makes room for the more heady stuff here that we get about, John talking about his dad. A shot that lingers with me every time I watch is that scene of him watching these 2 kids playing with guns. And he looks over the Terminator and goes,
We're not gonna make it, are we? People, I mean.
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Yeah. Major drag, huh?
Break it up or I wring both your necks. Come on. Do me. Give me a 5.
Watching John with the machine, it was suddenly so clear. The Terminator would never stop. It would never leave him. And it would never hurt him, never shout at him or get drunk and hit him or say it was too busy to spend time with him. It would always be there, and it would die to protect him. Of all the would-be fathers who came and went over the years, this thing, this machine, was the only one who measured up. In an insane world, it was the sanest choice.
This is why I think this movie stands tall among other action movies, because it decides to go to these places.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting, though, that he does say that. It's like, it's in your nature to destroy yourselves. At the same time, in 2029, we see that humans are banding together. They are united to try to fight for their own survival. So it's almost showing like 2 different sides of humanity. One that could be self-destructive and one that could somehow come back and fight for its own survival.
Yeah. And then we get Sarah Connor's nightmare.
Yeah. Whew. Became my nightmare, which was probably why I was too young to watch in the theaters.
Yeah, and it's a simple shot. She's at a playground. She's watching what I guess is like a 3 or 4-year-old version of John playing on the playground when a nuclear bomb goes off, and basically you watch everybody just get turned into a skeleton and fly apart like leaves, like she says. And I think this is a Stan Winston joint in terms of the special effects, I believe, and I think he said this was the most upsetting thing he ever worked on in his entire career of like working on like The Thing. Like this is the most upsetting shot he's ever done.
This probably at the time and since, because I don't think a lot of movies go into what would happen in the event of a nuclear bomb going off. This is probably the most vivid depiction of that. And it's horrifying. And I don't know if we've just kind of gotten beyond that, because this was right at the end of the Cold War. So obviously nukes are on people's minds. But, now we don't really see that nowadays. I know we have a new movie coming out, Oppenheimer, that deals with all that. But, if you look at the scene, it's pretty faithful to what could happen if you happen to be around a nuclear explosion.
I think there's even some stock footage in there of from these like nuclear towns they would blow up, like atomic testing in the desert, in the 40s and 50s. And yeah, it just looks like, it looks like an apocalypse. Like it's real scary. And that is what gives Sarah the impetus to, she has to go kill Miles Dyson to stop this from happening. And she goes off on her own and carves No Fate into a table, and goes rogue. Yeah. And then John finds it.
No fate but what we make. My father told her this. I mean, I made him memorize it up in the future as a message to her. Never mind. Now, okay. The whole thing goes. The future's not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
She intends to change the future.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, shit!
Dyson.
Yeah, gotta be. Miles Dyson! She's gonna blow him away! Come on, let's go! Come on, let's go, come on!
And of course, let's go.
Yep. No fate but what we make for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the Terminator even like susses out that this is also a place for the T-1000 to go after him. Because in theory, if they just kept running, the T-1000 is going to run out of leads. It could be anywhere in the world. And,
yeah,
they'd always be looking over their shoulder. But talk about it's a game of Where's Waldo on the entire globe. It's never going to find them.
Yeah, but they know that like that just saves them for a short time. It's like this. It doesn't this. I love the storytelling on this because this big plot of like we're gonna go on the offense feels extremely like makes sense, and it doesn't feel like a turn. It feels like a point in the movie where it turns, but right along with the pace of the storytelling.
Yeah, and right here is where we kind of get the kind of the nexus of like the T-1000 or T-800 and Sarah Connor passing each other. He's becoming more human, she's becoming more robotic. And she's the one who makes the observation of like, watching him teach the Terminator to high five and stuff. He's the father that that John, the best father John could ever have, because he'll do his only purpose is to protect him, and he will never stop, no matter what. And she in the meanwhile is like, I'm just going to go kill this innocent civilian who has no idea that he's about to play a part in humanity's destruction.
Yeah.
And he loses his sunglasses and she puts on sunglasses. Like there's a little like visual, like, she is becoming a Terminator herself.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was younger, I kind of viewed that scene as kind of like this interesting, poignant observation that she was making about the Terminator, becoming like a father figure. And I've gotten older and I've looked, I'm like, no, that's actually a really interesting way to describe her state of mind. The way that she would view this Terminator is actually like the best father John has ever had. And you kind of go, well, wait a minute. Her thought process might be turning a little bit and leading up to exactly what you're saying. It's like she's kind of becoming Terminator-esque herself.
Yeah, and it's not clear why she decides to do this on her own and not bring the T-800 to help her, or hey, John, you stay here and hide. The T-1000 will never find you. You guys come with me. But we get this home invasion sequence that is just absolutely nightmarish because it's all from the Dyson's point of view. It's Joe Morton, who's he's an interesting actor. He's a very good actor, but if you ever watch him on Scandal, it's like some of the most like scenery chewing shit you've ever seen. It's fucking like bonkers Nicolas Cage level stuff. And then Estipatha Murkison is from Law and Order is his wife. But this whole sequence of her like firing a machine gun into their home, it's like even more frightening in 2023 to watch it than it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get that sense that, I don't know. Do you guys get the sense that watching this movie, it's such a classic movie, that there are things in this movie that wouldn't be done today necessarily? Like you wouldn't see certain scenes play out in a modern movie the way you see them play out in Terminator 2. I feel like this one's almost too domestically terrifying in a way.
I think they could still have the plot beat of her going to attack the home, and I think they would probably have the T-800 and John intercept her before it gets as bad as it does. Because Dyson like takes one in the shoulder, and like you got the scream, like the kids on the floor. He's like screaming at his son, "Get down!" Like it's all played very real and absolutely, again, terrifying to watch this character that we love subject these people to this, because she knows in her heart like it's this or humanity. On some
yeah,
level.
And they did a good enough job with the earlier scenes for this family to where we really feel for them, and we like, oh, they're good people, we like them, like they do not deserve this.
Totally. But fortunately she ultimately stops herself. She is not willing to go far enough to she can't bring herself to put the bullet in his head. right when John and the Terminator show up to deglove him. And I feel like that was a little extreme. I don't think he had to take off his entire arm. I think one finger, or just open the slit a little bit, like to completely take off all of his arm was probably overkill because he has to grow that back.
I know. I loved how John Connor, he's basically, it's his idea. He just walks up with a knife. He's like, go ahead, show him. It's like, whoa, dude. It's like, that was his idea. Okay. But yeah, pretty shocking.
He follows orders. And he probably didn't need the whole thing, but it was a really cool shot.
I mean, it's better than having him like step on a bathroom scale and shows that he actually weighs like 900 pounds because he's made of metal,
Sure.
Something like that. But again, talk about a great practical effect. Like it just looks like he's realistically just ripping my skin off like I do. It's so visceral. And then they have their discussion about causality and like, can they stop Judgment Day?
Dyson listened while the Terminator laid it all down. Skynet, Judgment Day, the history of things to come. It's not every day that you find out you're responsible for 3 billion deaths. He took it pretty well.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up. You're judging me on things I haven't even done yet. How are we supposed to know?
Yeah. Right. How are you supposed to know? Fucking men like you built the hydrogen bomb. Men like you thought it up. You're so creative. You don't know what it's like to really create something, to create a life. Feel it growing inside you. All you know how to create is death and destruction.
Mom! We need to be a little more constructive here, okay? We still have to stop this from happening, don't we?
But I thought, aren't we changing things? I mean, right now, changing the way it goes.
That's right. There's no way I'm going to finish the new processor. Not now. Forget it. I'm out of it. I'll quit Cyberdyne tomorrow.
That's not good enough.
No one must follow your work.
Right.
I like this because this actually is where you have to start thinking about, hey, is this going to work? Can they stop it? No one asked the question of, hey, if we stop Judgment Day, doesn't John cease to exist? Because there's no reason to send Kyle Reese back in time to father him. But it's this nice moment of them, like after all of this terror, like the Dysons, like immediately once they see the arm, it's like, yep, I believe in time travel. I believe in Judgment Day. I'm on board with everything that's happening. I believe it.
Yeah. And now we're all a team.
Yeah. And so then we get our drive in this great shot of the road at night, which is going to be, they're going to call back to at the end, and Sarah Connor actually saying, hey, for the first time, I don't know if Judgment Day is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to go. We're now writing the future as we do this, as we pull up to Cyberdyne for another amazing action sequence. Like basically this is the action sequence that will take us all the way to the end of the movie, because once they infiltrate Cyberdyne, it's full throttle all the way until the death of the T-1000.
Yep. And another, there's so many times in this movie where you go, oh man, The Matrix really benefited from this movie. I feel like this sequence is, especially this building with all the cops, everything is absolutely one of them.
Yeah, this whole thing from start to, again, the end of the T-1000, arguably one of the finest action sequences ever put on film. It's so well paced. You always know exactly what's happening with the action. You're never confused about who's where and what they're doing. So just from a filmmaking standpoint, it's so cleanly done and so easy to follow. Like the only thing I can think of that comes close is maybe like the Helm's Deep battle from Two Towers, like another like way, way, way high up there action sequence. But this is so laser focused. It's so good. Just from the moment they walk it, like Dyson walks in there, and immediately the security guard is like, something's up.
Yeah. I totally agree. An amazing sequence. And what's interesting is this is coming from the 80s, right? So the 80s action movies featured lots of guns and explosions, and sometimes they could be mind-numbing and boring. What is absolutely amazing about this is this features guns, explosions, everything, and it's never boring. I think for all those reasons you just talked about, Doug, it's like it's so engrossing when these types of scenes had been done so many times before, but it's just on a whole nother level. Yeah, it's well done explosions.
I was going to say, in that moment where Dyson's holding the trigger, that is so powerful.
I don't know how much longer I can hold this. Go back! Everybody out! Go back now! Go, go, go!
Yeah, I mean, and even before we get there, because I do want to spend some time on his death, which is, again, mind-blowing. I love the way they keep ratcheting up the stakes of like, okay, first it's a heist mission, right? We got to get in there. But fairly quickly on, the SWAT team is called. And like, all right, now we've got 100 cops outside versus one Terminator, one Sarah Connor, a kid, and, a scientist.
Injured scientist.
An injured scientist, yeah. And so they're putting all the explosives around because, they said, like, we have to make sure nothing survives this. No one can follow in the work that we've done. So we have to destroy every computer, every single thing that's in here. And you get the return of the ATM device. John pulls that off so they can help get into whatever the server room is or wherever they need to go. And he grabs at some point the ARM and the CPU of the original Terminator. So that goes into John's backpack. And I love that sequence where first, of course, we get Arnold's catchphrase because we have to.
Yeah.
Shut your eyes.
Stay here. I'll be back.
But after I'll be back, that's fine. The sequence of him, because John pleads with him, you can't kill anybody. And he just says, trust me. That's all cool. But then actually watching him execute on that, it makes him so much more badass because of the precision required to basically expel all of this SWAT team without harming a soul. It's so great.
Yeah. Becomes a surgeon, tactician at that point.
Yeah.
And that image of Arnold at the window with the minigun, like that's got to be one of the all-time iconic shots. Incredible.
Oh,
yeah. Well, and the only one, of course, without a gas mask because they put tear gas in there. And I just love. He's like, he doesn't need it. He appears more fearsome because all of them like, why doesn't he need it? They don't know he's a robot. So it's just so great to watch him go to work, basically. And then. I love that, like, the score, you just hear this boom, and we see some lights of a motorcycle, and I'm like, fuck, he's back. And now we have a Robert Patrick entering the fray. A new challenger approaches.
Heightening.
Which, actually, he had been gone from the movie for a while at this point. And so it's almost like he kind of forgot about him a bit, and then, boom, he's back.
Yeah, I love they could have a lesser movie would have intercut to something like, he's searching around for the Connors. He's trying to find something, we would see what he's up to while they're in Mexico. And like, no, we just trust you, because it makes it so much more impactful when he shows up. Where it's like, oh no, they have to deal with this too now.
Yeah.
And then, there's the moment where the cops, I guess, fire a bunch of bullets and they take out Dyson, and who is, he's gasping for that last breath, trying to hold on as long as he can before he lets go of this trigger that will blow up half of Cyberdyne. Fun fact, the cop who runs up and like sees him and then tells everybody, you got to get back. That is Dean Norris from Breaking Bad.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Hank Schrader. Like, blink and you'll miss it. But the second you see him, you're like, I mean, that guy has a very distinctive look. So you know, like, oh, it's Uncle Hank.
Very cool.
But I love the Morton's choice to like gasp that way. It's so like, you've never seen that on film before. Someone, having that kind of a last gasp.
No, that hit hard.
Felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too bad. Like you believed in what he was doing and he felt like he had to do that. But man, it's too bad it had to happen.
Yeah.
Sacrifices for the greater good.
Unless you believe that the rest of the Terminator films are canon, in which case it did not do much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on Terminator 3. But I actually I sort of like the ending, but I prefer the ending of this much, much more. And we're almost there. But yeah, so the T-1000 menaces them, catches up to them. After they fend off all the cops, they're on the run in this shitty truck.
Yeah.
While once again, he's got a big rig. This time it's full of, as we know, liquid nitrogen. And we have another freeway chase.
Mm-hmm. More car chases.
Yeah, more car chases. I love that they keep emptying bullets into him, even though they know, like, not going to do much. Going to slow him down a little bit.
I mean, you got to feel like you're in control somehow, right?
What is it? You grant me the serenity to change the things that I can change, and accept the things that I cannot.
Yep.
So the thing they can't change it, but they can unload bullets into him for, I guess for fun. But yeah, that scene where like Arnold like jumps onto the big rig and like just unloads in him from close range, and then jumps off and tumbles. All this, that poor guy on the side of the road, who the T-1000 kills. Like again, this whole sequence while there's like a helicopter above them. Yeah, it's just they keep ratcheting up. Like you can't get it. They've tempted fate one too many times because they've had all these opportunities where it's like the T-800 is like, don't go. The T-1000 will catch up with you if you go here, and they do it. Don't do it. Don't go to Mom. Don't go to Dyson. And now here, yes, it's finally he will never let up from this chase.
And then we get the big tease to make us think that they beat him, and they did not.
Yeah, this incredible shot where they cause the big rig to explode as Arnold goes like tumbling off of it into this steel mill where the T-1000 gets a big wave of liquid nitrogen and freezes, and then Arnold shoots him and he shatters.
Hasta la vista, baby. We don't have much time.
I thought he was dead too. I was like, oh, that's clever. They froze him and he blew into a million pieces.
Yeah, well, a wonderful way to do it. I mean, obviously we're used to all the fire and explosions at this point, but to actually freeze him, and that whole sequence of him freezing and quote dying, that was pretty freaky too. I mean, that was freaky to watch him like die.
Yeah, it's amazing how much body horror they can get out of a character that actually doesn't have a human body. It's just a blob of metal, but like freaky looking.
Yeah.
Anytime they blow up his head or whatever, and it's like all spread out, like that's some good body horror. Fun fact about this shot: it's real liquid nitrogen. They wanted to try and come up with some way to fake it, and they said there's just nothing else that behaves that way. Wow. So we just have to get a bunch of liquid nitrogen and just let it loose safely. at a mannequin.
Wow.
More than $102 million budget.
Yeah. And then we get some more cool science because we get the liquid mercury blobs reforming themselves into the T-1000. And that is, again, it's actual. They just use liquid mercury. It's not CG. They just had it roll around.
It is the eeriest moment in that movie for me, is watching that liquid just coagulate together bit by bit. And he goes, "We don't have much time," or we got to enter soon, or whatever he says. And I'm just like, "Oh, he's not dead."
Yeah, for me, it's the sound design. We haven't talked much about the sound design of this movie, but it's obviously very good. There's a lot of gunshots, but the sound of the T-1000 that he makes are the most interesting sounds to me in the movie. And here, there's one that's just like a lot of like plop sounds as they as they reconstitute. Yeah, somehow they make that sound scary.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what's going to happen. You know what all those plops lead to. You know he's going to come back.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a classic slasher movie thing of Michael Myers or whatever. He keeps on coming. He takes a licking and keeps on ticking. This is, I think, the scariest version of that, right? Yeah. Because he's not human. I believe that he is invulnerable in this way. Whereas, you stab Michael Myers enough times, he's still flesh and blood, guys. He should be dead by now. And it's no, there is almost nothing on Earth that will stop this thing.
Almost, but thankfully they wandered into the set of an '80s music video because they're in a steel mill. I love this. I was talking about good sets earlier. This is such an iconic way to end. The open vats of lava or whatever the hell it is. The constant machines, the different stairs. It's just this setting. I don't know if they had to construct it or if it was a real factory they used or whatever. But I still think it was one of those iconic settings of an action sequence in a movie.
It is a real steel mill. It was out of use by the time they filmed it, but it's out in Fontana, California. So they took over. I mean, like I said, it was defunct, so they could do whatever they wanted with it. But again, it's also drive something. It's a very mechanical setting, right? It fits this the machine on machine action, and because we've seen a lot of I feel like a steel mill is a very commonplace for an action sequence in some ways. There's that whole scene in RoboCop where they're at a refinery or something, but this is, it's more hellish because it's everything is bright red. You can tell how hot it is in there. Just a miserable place to be. And once again, we get a cat and mouse game between everybody, and the T-800 seemingly is completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And to add on to that, one thing I love about this location is that it is where something like an advanced machine could be forged. It's almost like a birthplace for something that's crafted with metal. You know what I mean? And it's got that birth aspect to it, but also maybe the death aspect that we'll see later. It's a great kind of alpha omega thing for these metal creatures.
Yeah, and the fight between the two of them is so it is brutal. It almost makes you believe that the T-1000 would have a personal grudge against Arnold at this point, even though it should be incapable of that. Because he doesn't kill him efficiently. He might be able to. I mean, it's a lot of just beating him hard, and then he rams him through with that spike, right through his torso, and you watch the light in his eye go out. And it was just really intense. And then it's again, the tension goes up because now Sarah and John are on their own without an Arnold to help them.
I know that the machines aren't supposed to feel joy, but I swear Robert Patrick puts a little bit of joy when he's killing Arnold Schwarzenegger. He puts the spike through him and he's kind of just turning it, or he's shoving that huge bit of steel into his head 3 or 4 times in a row. It's just I got, you're my bitch,
There's another deleted thing here, that kind of a little plot thread that they dropped, which is the idea that the freezing and breaking up and reconstituting, it didn't kill him, but it kind of messes with him and however his software works, because there's scenes of him glitching a little bit after this. And this was meant to lead up to a scene where obviously there's 2 Sarah Connors and we got to figure out which one's the real one and which one's the T-1000. and there was going to be a slight glitch that let us know, or lets John and the Terminator T-800 know which one's the real one. So there's shots that you can watch where like he puts his arm on like this black and yellow striped thing, and suddenly it's like black and yellow all up his arm.
Yeah, it's like he can't help but mimic it.
Well, yeah, the idea that like he is vulnerable here. He's been slightly weakened in some way, which I'm glad they got rid of that, because we want to believe all the way to the end that he is just, there are no weaknesses. And then we get him. We've seen him do his impressions before with the Foster family, but now we hear what appears to be Sarah Connor's voice calling to John, because they've split up.
Yeah,
and I love the confrontation between him and her, because he could kill her instantly, but he doesn't. He kind of like he puts that spike in her near her eye and goes, "Call to John."
Call to John. I know this hurts. Call John. Call to John now.
I love this. It's so like it's intimidating for him, but it makes her look like a badass, because she's not backing down.
Nope. Do not mess with a mother.
It's probably the most mama bear thing in the movie.
Yeah.
And I just love this. And then we cut back to what the T-800 is waking back up.
Yeah, alternate power source.
Yeah, which is amazing. After the sad supposed death, we get him to come back.
Yeah,
yeah, and I love the way he comes back, because now we're at a point where like the T-1000 has John, or has Sarah, right? Basically at her throat, sort of like she did with the psychiatrist. John is there. He doesn't know what to do because he doesn't want her to die, and Sarah starts firing into him. I forget. He's near the end of the ledge. And we're waiting for, but then she's out of bullets.
Yep. And he recovers and he's like, "Oh, you're dead now," until
he does the finger wag. He does the Sonic the Hedgehog finger wag.
Yeah.
Which is like, even at this late stage in the movie, that's such a badass move for him to do. It's like he keeps throwing out all these iconic things all the way up to his death. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, again, all hope is lost. But then Arnold is like, he's riding a gear. I don't know what's happening. He's coming up and over the side of a thing. And he's got this gun that we've seen before that's like, it's like a grenade launcher, sort of.
Yeah.
And I love this. He fires it into the T-1000 and he blows up into this. Like, we've seen him blow up before, like a big hole in his head. This is some awesome, again, like John Carpenter's The Thing shit, where like he's in this giant like C shape with like his head and arm on one side. Like, fucking incredible like practical effect of this thing.
And then watching him scream and wail and turn into different faces in the lava or whatever it is, the molten steel, like that is, again, just ripping.
I mean, again, great use of CGI, but also I want to call out like the sound design here, because like this like the sound it makes in its death throes, as it's swimming in the lava are incredible. And then that last shot of like its face turning inside out into its face again. I don't know how else to describe that. Like perfect character death. It's, you know, not since the Wicked Witch of the West has there been someone melted this good.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, he just joins the molten steel or whatever. It just kind of just fades out into that. Yeah, incredible. Mm-hmm. And that scene where he goes through all the faces, I remember kids were talking about that forever. Like, it's just that idea of like dying but going through all the faces he'd been before.
Yeah, we talked about this, Rich, on a prior podcast because they pull that trick in Batman, the animated series with Clayface. He does a similar thing when Batman defeats him. And like, there's something about this like shape-shifting thing, like frantically, you know, basically flailing around trying to do something as it shapeshifts into things we've seen before. It's just, again, the only word I can think of is evocative, but like it's, you know, this thing that's been so inhuman, like watching it, like it's anytime you have like something that thinks it's invulnerable, suddenly realize, oh shit, I'm not invulnerable. I'm on board for that. It's so cool.
Yeah. But then, you know, you think, oh, that's the end. And then there's one more big old rip your heart out of your chest moment.
Go for it, Rich. You can talk about what happens.
I can't self-terminate. There's one more chip, points right to his head. And then John Connor puts it together and we get another. This poor kid has been through hell his whole life, hit this whole movie. And finally they get rid of the bad guy and you think, oh, we can just chill for a second. Nope. We got to murder your father figure.
It's over.
No. There's one more chip. And it must be destroyed also. Here. I cannot self-terminate. You must lower me into the steel.
No.
I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry.
No, it'll be okay. Stay with us. It'll be okay.
I have to go away.
No, don't do it. Please, don't go.
I must go away, John.
No! No, wait, you don't have to do this.
Sorry.
No, don't do it, don't go.
It has to end here.
I order you not to go. I order you not to go. I order you not to go.
I know now why you cry. But it's something I can never do.
And they pay off his like burgeoning humanity, where he finally says, first of all, he does one thing that he says, I need the vacation, which is like, all right, we'll give you one. Arnold, the T-800 would never say it, but fuck it. It's a funny line.
It works.
Yeah, it works. And then he says, yeah, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do. Tin Man has a heart.
Yeah. And then, you know, what's ironic is Sarah Connor, who did not trust this thing with good reason and wanted to kill it, then tolerated it, then sided with it, then appreciated it, now has to end it like she wanted to in the beginning.
But you can see the like respect on her face. Like this thing has learned, it's, you know, proven its worth and its loyalty. And, you know, by understanding also that it has to make the ultimate sacrifice for John and the future of humanity. Yeah. Ken, I'd love to hear your take on this, because this is kind of, again, this is the biggest emotional payload in the movie.
Yeah, and I just really like how it was handled, because we go through all those emotions, all what Richard's talking about, all the bonding that was built up, and then you get the slow descent down into the molten steel, you know, that kind of goodbye. And then he's going down and you hate to see him, like he's burning up. But then, yes, you got the thumbs up. And so it kind of gives you that kind of nice, warm feeling that it's okay. It was a good time. We'll miss you, but everything's going to be okay. And so I just thought that was such a great moment. It puts a smile on your face, and it makes everything just feel okay.
And then we get one of my favorite closing shots in any movie, which is just, again, it's the open road and Sarah's narration just saying, we now don't know what the future holds. But it's slightly like, it's both menacing and optimistic at the same time. And of course she says, even if a Terminator can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. And that should be patent cliche, but I think that hits like a truck. Like, I think that is such a perfect button for this movie, given the themes that they've been working us through the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah. It tight storytelling, had a very clear underlying message that they never hit you over the head with, but powerfully showed us throughout the whole way, and just put a bow on it on the end.
And it's so much better than the alternate ending they had, which they did shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about that.
What is it, Ken?
I'll be honest. I have not seen that one in years. I just remembered, it's with an older, Linda Hamilton's in older makeup, years in the future, everything's okay. I think she's in that same park that was featured multiple times. And I just remember it not being very good. Like, I'm glad that it did not end that way.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So the scene of her in the park that we see in The Nightmare, in the full director's cut version of all these deleted scenes we've been talking about, there are actually, I think, 3 scenes in that part. They keep coming back to it as a recurring motif. So there's one early on, there's the one with the nightmare, and there's this one where it's the future. So she's in that same park, but everything's fine, and there's shining, glittering, futuristic buildings in the background that they're just not up to the special effects standards of the rest of the movie. But beyond that, I don't like that. I like the ambiguous ending. It's did we prevent Judgment Day? We don't. John's still alive, so maybe not. But there's hope in the uncertainty of not knowing what the future will be. It's so strong. I will say, I actually kind of think the ending of Terminator 3 is kind of an interesting idea from a sci-fi writing perspective, but I don't like any of it because it undoes this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that is Terminator 2, guys. We did it. So I'll ask the question I always ask, which is, why do you think this movie has endured for 32 years? Why do we still love Terminator 2 today?
I think Ken put it best. I think he said this perfect storm, just everything, and then Doug, you said best sci-fi, best action, best Arnold movie, one of the best stories just in general, great acting, great music, great editing, great special effects. I mean, just every category works.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And also, something we really hadn't talked about yet is the idea of Skynet. And so I think there are a lot of ideas that underpin this movie that continue to be really relevant, in terms of when are the computers going to wake up and become intelligent? And, and we're running into that with AI right now. And, everyone talks about AI and all these systems becoming like Skynet. Skynet's kind of in the pop culture consciousness because of this movie. And I think that it speaks to a human fear of this technology becoming so advanced that it could turn around and annihilate us. I think it's a fear we seem to have. And I think that's why this movie continues to be very relevant.
I agree with you, Ken. I think there's something cool about the fact that we never see Skynet in this movie. It is it technically hasn't been invented yet, but it's we could see it in the future, I suppose. But it is a faceless threat. I keep coming back to the Lord of the Rings, but it's like Sauron. It's in the background. It's not physically present. We only see its agents, and the way they kind of have Skynet cast a pall over the entire movie, because one thing that's kind of paramount importance in any time travel movie is causality. That's the thing that's always in play, right? We're trying to change the way time goes, or we're trying to ensure that time goes, a certain way and not get changed. Quick preview: we're going to be doing Back to the Future next. Nice. So it's that is obviously that movie is all about we fucked up the timeline. Yeah. This movie it's all about this looming threat. And so, like, we talked about all of the the incredible emotions that Sarah Connor shows in this movie. All of that is because she knows the future. The Terminators know the future. Everybody knows the future. Everything that Dysons go through is because they are told what the future holds. And that tension, like, yes, there's individual tension in the moments of like, uh-oh, how are they going to get away from the T-1000? But the larger thing of like, we can't escape inevitability. And the T-1000 absolutely is like inevitability incarnate, right? And there's something about that menace that makes this movie, even though it's not a quote-unquote horror movie, there's something very unsettling watching this movie. Like, just, you feel these characters are just on this fucking conveyor belt that they are desperate to get out of. And you add into that the humanity in the story, both from the Connors' perspective and from the T-800s. And you just have this recipe for something that, you know, transcends its action movie roots. And, like, you know, yeah, you can have all the exciting explosions in the world, but it's that emotional thing that this movie delivers so well. That's what, like, I keep coming back to, even after I've seen all the CGI in the world.
Yeah. And I'll just say that, like, I know that there's no way, especially in 1991, that an action sci-fi movie that got #1 most money gross at the box office was ever going to be nominated for the quote-unquote creative Oscars, even though it got, like, cinematography and effects and all these other things. But, like, I honestly think that the acting performances in this could go up against anyone who was nominated that year for supporting Best Actor, Best Actress, any of that.
I would have been Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, so that was a tough competition that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So guys, we've done it. I loved having you on for this episode. This was so much fun. I've been dying to do this movie. It's been on the short list for a long time. Rich, where can our listeners find you if they want to find your good works?
Oh, if you're interested in improv classes or testing out improv, you can take a drop in for free with me. Find me at Rich Baker Coaching on Instagram or richbakercoaching.com.
Ken?
Well, if you're interested in tornado chasing or Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, or movies in general, you can check me out on YouTube at Ken Cole or follow me at Kenergy Cole on all the social media channels.
And where would I find KenCast if I was going to watch that?
Oh, KenCast is available on all podcast platforms. It's my podcast. We have KenCast Live on my YouTube channel, and then we have discussions that come on KenCast. So look up KenCast where you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. And I highly recommend you seek out both of these guys because they put out amazing stuff. And if you like this show, of course, like, rate, subscribe, go on iTunes or Podcast Addict and drop it a nice review. That helps us out a bunch. If you have thoughts on our recent episodes, including Terminator 2, before this was Rocky 4, and then, The Far Side, Disney songs going back a bit, going into the future. As I mentioned, we have Back to the Future coming up, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what else is in the mix? Chrono Trigger, Yu-Gi-Oh!, like a whole bunch of stuff. So, real exciting stuff coming for this, like, summer of bangers. So that's what I'll have to call it. And of course, if you want to send us feedback, tweet it to @NostalgiumPod or follow us on Instagram. Just put in Nostalgium Arcanum and you'll find it. And please follow us there because I'll put bonus stuff, reels out every week on different topics. So look for us there. And thanks again, gentlemen. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Well, it's time to say hasta la vista, baby. And until next time, that is one more entry in the Nostalgium Arcanum.
The unknown future rolls toward us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too.
Okay, listen to me. I'm gonna ask you one time nicely. I need your clothes!